So
As
how
long
is
as I don't have
everybody?
to, as long as I don't have to be the captain.
Yeah. You are safe from being the captain. What's up, Drew? Hey, what's up? Look at you. You're just out there living life. That's nice. We can't hear you if you're chatting. All
Okay.
right.
I think I'm good now. I think I'm good.
Good deal. Yeah. You just missed the internet crashing, but here we are. So
Okay.
I was like, oh no, it like crashed right here, like at time to go. That sucks. But it all worked out. So, well, thanks for making it, Drew.
Hey, no, yeah. I'm glad I was able to hop on. This'll be different compared to yesterday because yesterday was what, chapter 11 and this
Yeah, oh
is
yeah.
chapter 2.
Yeah. So we normally meet with like a Nepali group, and it's different anyway because he bounces back and forth between Nepali and English. So
Yeah,
for
yeah.
somebody like me that's like squirrel, like it's kind of it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to stay focused a little bit, but yeah, we'll go ahead and dive in. So last week we actually read chapter 2, 47 through 65, and there was a request to touch on the top five big themes that were in that section. So I'll cover those real quick just to recap. So
Okay.
the big themes from 47 through 65 last week was one, we control effort more than outcomes. Two, attachment creates anxiety. Three, the mind becomes shaped by what it repeatedly focuses on.
Can you go back to two? Sorry.
No,
I'm
you're
trying to
good.
write what you're saying.
Okay, I'll try to go slow. How about you give me the nod when you're good. So two was attachment creates anxiety. I was trying to talk fast
Okay.
because my dog has really bad gas, so if I keep talking, the wind is just pushing it away. And of course it's aimed right at me. Number three. Yeah, it's a kiss from beyond. Number three was the mind becomes shaped by what it repeatedly focuses on. The mind becomes shaped by what it repeatedly focuses on.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Four, spiritual life is about inner steadiness, not emotional numbness. Spiritual life is about inner steadiness and not emotional numbness.
Perfect.
That's not what detachment means, is basically what that's saying. Number five, lastly, was peace comes through disciplined consciousness.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Disciplined consciousness.
Yes.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you. I agree. I agree with all five of those statements.
I will write them down. I concur. Yes.
Yes, I concur with all of them. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, of course. So today we're going to finish chapter two. What this little last section is about is what does real peace actually look like? Because Krishna is now fully landing the plane on um, attachment, desire, restless consciousness, peace, wisdom, and of course, spiritual steadiness, kind of what we were talking about. So, again, we're going to finish 66 through 72, and that'll button it up, and then we'll kind of recap and reflect on all of chapter two. So, if you're kind of like me, in this world, I just feel mentally exhausted all the time. And I'm sure everybody can attest to that. It's just so much, a lot, it just feels like. And that's really what this final section of chapter two is about, is mental unrest, desire, overstimulation, lack of peace, and of course, endless cravings and those type of things is really kind of what we're going to touch on. Because if if what we repeatedly contemplate shapes our consciousness, then what is modern society really shaping us into? We kind of talked about that, even in those five we discussed, the mind becomes shaped by what it repeatedly follows. That's really I mean, if that's what's true of our consciousness, then you just start thinking about the things that are in our society today, and you're like, oh my God, am I getting shaped by this stuff? This is like, kind of overwhelming when you step back out of it and kind of think about that. And Krishna is basically describing why modern consciousness struggles so much because of all those overstimulation and things. So, in order to progress, we really have to establish what the difference is between pleasure and peace. And some would blur those lines, but if you really dig down into their definitions, pleasure and peace are way different, than really what maybe the modern world would want us to think. And I think that's really why modern people have more comfort and stimulation than ever before, but they still struggle with anxiety, loneliness, and restlessness, and they can't find their peace. Um, you know, as you guys know, I love like Stoic philosophy and stuff, and Seneca had a quote that really fits this. And the quote from Seneca is, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And that's really, because the need is never filled. And that's really perfect for this section what Seneca is talking about there, because Krishna is about to explain why inner peace becomes impossible when consciousness is constantly being dragged around by endless desires and attachments. And most, I would say most people don't consciously choose their mental state all day. Some people are very, you know, I try to be intentional in my mornings of setting my intentions of like, hey, this day is I'm gonna try to make good choices with my mind. I'm gonna try to not snap on anybody. I'm gonna try to enjoy my day and be strong you know, and just I'd really try to set that intention, but of course I'm human and I'm stuck in this material world, so that doesn't always happen. But so sometimes I don't think we're consciously choosing the mental state. Of course, there's also outside things that impact us. We even have algorithms, emotions, desires, notifications are going off, um, fears, comparisons to others, and impulses that are just constantly pulling our consciousness left and right and all over the place. And it's hard to stay mentally and spiritually focused. I'm going to go ahead and normally I'd pull it up so you could read it, Drew, but I don't need you driving and trying to read the screen. So I'll just read it out loud. I don't need that on my consciousness, speaking of that. So but we're going to go ahead and read it's chapter 2, text
Yeah.
60. All
I
good?
was I was gonna say I'm parked.
Oh, okay.
We're not driving. I'm in the car with the AC on.
Smart man. A little warm out there. Well, I'll just go ahead and read it here for you, and you can follow along. So, text 66 of chapter 2. One who is not connected with the Supreme or in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? And I underlined that in my Gita was how can there be any happiness without peace, which is kind of you first time you read that, you're like, well, yeah. But then you really start to think about that and you're like, oh, yeah, that's kind of, there's not really happiness without peace. And that's why I really think this verse is really deep because Krishna is explaining that without spiritual grounding, the mind remains restless and monkey mind, like we've talked about before. And without peace, happiness becomes impossible. And it's like imagine trying to uh, stay calm, have no anxiety, but endlessly feeding distraction with doom scrolling and consuming and buying. And I know that me personally, I try like hell, but it's really hard for me to stay out of um, the current political climate because stuff pops up on my feed and I'm like, oh, this mother, and I'm just like getting upset about stuff that really there's nothing I can do. And the other side of whatever, no matter what side you're on, the other side doesn't care that I'm mad, you know? So it's like the only person that's being impacted in the happiness is myself. The only person that has the inner peace messed up is myself. Now, that doesn't mean to disregard and not, care about those things because that's kind of what we talked about before, in the top five there last time was, it's not emotional numbness. You can't just say, well, I don't care about anything because that's pretty narcissistic and just like, pushing everything off and not connecting. It's okay to feel emotions, but we can't let them control us and just overtake us. And that's really what this is talking about. And the temporary stimulation by like the binge watching, the validation seeking, the buying things, a lot of that isn't the same as peace. A lot of times, and I'll be the first to admit, sometimes if I'm like overstimulated or I'm bored at work, like I'll go get, I don't know, some Sour Patch Kids, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but do I really need that? No. I'm pre-diabetic. Should I be popping this stuff in my mouth? Probably not. But it's really good and it's delicious. And I love Sour Patch Kids. So I mean, it's like that's not bad thing, but that's one thing through like bhakti and just through understanding the Gita that's really challenged me personally is trying to find the why behind everything. Why am I eating the Sour Patch Kids? Is it because I'm trying to get something nutritious? I'm trying to deflect and think about something else? Am I trying to just like, oh, I'm bored, so instead of working, I'm just going to get up and walk and go get some candy, like what is my intention behind things? And sometimes when you really start to self-evaluate and reflect on those things, you're like, okay, yeah, I'm just actually instead of like doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing at work, I'm leaving to go get candy because I don't want to work anymore. I'm being lazy, like it's really like so I think it's good to reflect and think about those things because again, temporary stimulation isn't the same as peace, And Prabhupada emphasizes in this that in the purport that real peace, of course, comes through the transcendental knowledge, the Krishna consciousness, and not merely just from external comforts that we see. And that's pretty big, because he repeatedly explains in the purports that material arrangements alone can't satisfy our soul because it's not on a spiritual level. It's on a material level. So let's go ahead and read 67. It's a short little verse here. 67. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. Now, this one's kind of confusing, so I'm going to read it again. As a strong wind sweeps away a boat on the water, even one of the roaming senses on which the mind focuses can carry away a man's intelligence. So, this is about, of course, the wandering mind, the monkey mind that we've talked about that's just going everywhere. And Krishna is comparing it to a boat being swept away by a strong wind. And I I know again I can personally speak to this, but I think we can all attest to times where we just open our phone just for a minute. I'm just going to kill a minute before I go do something, and the next thing we know, oh my God, how long have I been on my phone? Like it's been like 30 minutes. Like, and you just get swept away by these types of things. Because again, it happens to me all the time. Especially, usually, I'm not trying to be crude, but usually when I try to figure it out, I'm usually on the toilet and my legs start going numb. And I'm like, wait, how long have I been here? I'm just like playing games on my phone. I'm like, what am I doing, man? So that's the basically the modern sense agitation that we deal with is just diving into the phone and the next thing I know, like 30 minutes is gone because whatever is controlling our attention slowly influences our consciousness and there's no way around it. So I'd encourage you to maybe try to have positive things on your feed. I know I've tried to flush my feed multiple times because the algorithm tries to sneak things in there, and I'll just go ahead and hit the three dots on Instagram, and be like, not interested. I don't want to see this, and try to redirect my algorithm to where I can actually I can actually get something out of it, and get something that can be used as a tool for me to be able to use. Hey Krishna, how are you? Welcome.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Good to see you.
Same here,
We
Prabhuji.
we just read we're in chapter 2 of Bhagavad
Okay.
Gita, and we just read 67. So we were just talking about the wandering mind. So we're getting ready to read 68 and 69 of chapter 2. Um, all right, so let's go ahead and move on to 68 and 69. So 68. Therefore, O mighty armed, one whose senses are restrained from their objects is certainly of steady intelligence. 69. What is night for all beings is the time of awakening for the self-controlled, and the time of awakening for all beings is night for the introspective sage. So, what this is talking about is awakening spirituality. And this is such a fascinating section, really philosophically, because Krishna is basically saying that what most people chase materially, the spiritually grounded person begins losing taste for those and gains a higher taste. And we have to see that reality within the illusion. And when, like I said, when we start questioning why I'm doing these things, why am I going and getting candy right now? I don't need candy. Like that, it's you start to have a higher taste and you want to, you know, do make better choices in your life. And what that's kind of like outgrowing unhealthy habits, things we no longer need, constant validation, realizing endless consumption of things doesn't fulfill us. Spiritual awakening often changes what we find valuable, and I think that is awesome to see when you ever start to look back on your life and you see things that you were into before totally different than the things that you are into now, and you can see your growth, and that makes you it encourages you because you're like, oh man, I didn't really think I was making progress, but the Jeremiah 2 years ago be like, man, this guy's killing it. He's doing really good. He's like, he's still got stuff to work on, but it's like he's doing really good, and you should be proud of yourself because I mean, you dig through and you take your time, and sometimes it's hard doing a spiritual walk. That's just the nature of the beast. But being consistent and, continually moving forward is what is crucial. Now, one thing that to talk about here in these two verses here is there's actually, well, one sec, let's make sure I'm telling you the right thing here. So there's actually two types of intelligence. One, there's the intelligence that is fixed on the soul. And two, there's the materialist's intelligence that's fixed on sense objects. And Prabhupada often emphasizes that a materialistic society pursues those temporary pleasures, and a spiritual consciousness society seeks lasting fulfillment. And I think we can, like we said, the doom scrolling and those type of things. Sure, like for a while, I'm entertained. I've got this game I play. It's like it's gonna sound really dumb, but like I fill up these bottles and just like change the color of the bottle, and I just continue fill it. Like it has no point. But and like I said, no. Sometimes I find myself, oh my gosh, I've been on my phone for 30 minutes. What have I gained from this? Nothing, other than I guess I killed some time and I got paid at work for not doing work. I guess that's the benefit. I don't, there's no real benefit there. So we have to try to set our mind to seek things that have fulfillment, things that will fill us up. And this ties directly into, of course, like consumerism, social media, like I've been talking about, comparison culture of, well, they look like they've got it together, or man, I wish I had her hair, or whatever. It's anytime we compare ourselves, it's not worth it. There's just endless ambition. And modern life is literally built on harvesting human attention. That's literally what these corporations are doing. They're trying to harvest your attention. That's really what social media is. And it's we just have to be aware of that it's a slippery slope. Let's go ahead and dive into text 70. So 70. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. So Krishna is giving the ocean analogy here, which is beautiful. And this is one of the most beautiful verses in this chapter, in my opinion, because Krishna is comparing spirituality of a steady person to an ocean that's constantly receiving all the rivers, everything's running into it, but it's remaining undisturbed. Like underneath those, the water's still, all these rivers are coming into it, the top of it's still, it's not like Niagara Falls, so to speak. And the ocean is constantly receiving that water, but is undisturbed. And modern society often teaches that, once I get enough of this stuff, then I'll be at peace, I'll be happy, everything will be good. But Krishna almost flips that completely upside down. Krishna is talking about how the self becomes vast enough internally that these temporary events no longer dominate our consciousness because a peaceful person equals a calm person. And most people live essentially, sticking with the water theme here, most people emotionally live like a puddle. There's every little event, somebody drops something, it splashes the water out of it. Somebody steps in the puddle, the water goes out of it, and it just disrupts the whole entire little puddle. And it's just, whoosh, whoosh. Step in, a car drives through it. It's just always being disturbed. What he's describing is Krishna's wanting Arjuna and wanting us to become more like an ocean. He's wanting us to be deep enough that the external waves no longer completely control us, and these things on the outside are coming in, they don't disturb what we have internally. And again, easier said than done, but as long as we're constantly self-reflecting and relying on this higher taste, you'll be able to achieve that. And desires, of course, are endless by nature, right? Krishna is not saying desire's bad, and like kind of what we talked about before. He's pointing out that material desire can never be satisfied fully. And that is one thing that we have to come to realize that no matter how much we are in this material world, those things they're around us. We can't escape them, but we can't let them impact us. And I'm sure you could all attest and know that every time how quickly our mind moves on when we've achieved the thing, like it gets what it wants and then it tries to move on, like, oh, okay, well, I did that. So now what's next? And I'm guilty of that because I'm a busy bee. I like to stay busy. I like to constantly be doing things. And if I'm sitting for a second, I'm like, am I supposed to be doing something? So it's just my mind is always racing. And that's one of the reasons why, for me, mantra meditation is so important. And because it forces me to sit down, it forces me to block out the exterior world. And even if I only have time to just do a couple of rounds, I just want to sit here, absorb time with Krishna and just focus and just block out the external world because this world is so loud. It's just it's constantly going. So it's good to, as our mind moves on to the next thing, it's good to stop and take those things because if temporary things cannot fully satisfy an eternal soul, then endless material cravings really make sense, because if this material stuff can't make my soul happy, then I've heard the saying before is if you have a spiritual problem, then you need to have a spiritual solution. If you have a material problem, you have a material solution. So, if your soul's feeling empty and it's like, I just feel like there's something more, you need to solve that spiritually, obviously. One thing that Prabhupada mentions and emphasizes in here is that, of course, desires may still appear, but a spiritually grounded person is not overwhelmed or controlled by them. And I think that distinction is very important because again, we're not going to be able to get rid of them, but how do we deal with them? And I've mentioned this before about when I used to really battle anxiety. My therapist always said you cannot ever completely eliminate anxiety. All you can do is eliminate the peaks and the longevity. So, and that's really how it is with material desires too, and things of this outside world. Like, all right, so I'm always on my phone. What can I do? All right, well, instead of having it beside me all the time, let me just put it way over here, and then maybe I'll actually get some stuff done. Maybe, just trying to find out what works for you to maybe not have those distractions. Let's see here. Let's button up chapter 2 here, and we'll read 71 and 72, and then we'll recap all of chapter 2. But 71, a person who has given up all desires for sense gratification, who lives free from desires, who has given up all sense of proprietorship and is devoid of false ego, he alone can attain real peace. 72. That is the way of the spiritual and godly life, after attaining which a man is not bewildered. If one is thus situated, even at the hour of death, one can enter into the kingdom of God. And that's the end of chapter 2. So, what Krishna is talking about here is peace. This is the conclusion of chapter 2. So, we can't escape emotions. Um, like I said, you just can't be controlled by them. And no one can be desireless, but one has to change the quality of one's desires. And one who understands that everything belongs to this, everyone, someone that understands that everything belongs to the Supreme Lord Krishna doesn't falsely claim proprietorship over anything or desire anything just for one's self-enjoyment. Um, Such an attitude is based on the understanding that every living entity in their spiritual identity is a part and parcel of Krishna and thus his eternal servitor. So that is really what Krishna consciousness is and is real peace. The real desireless is desire for the satisfaction of Krishna, is really what that is. And it's not an artificial attempt to abolish desire or get rid of it. Krishna is describing freedom from possessiveness, freedom from selfish cravings, spiritual peace, as well as a steady consciousness. And like we had talked about in the last session, Krishna isn't describing somebody that's emotionless or just even detached from humanity. He's describing someone that no longer is enslaved by constant cravings and anxiety. And that's really the key distinction there. Prabhupada also repeatedly returns to peace comes through purification of consciousness, not endless material accumulation. So that's again easier said than done in the material world that we live in. But if we keep that constantly in our mind and stay focused on why do I need these new pair of shoes? Is it because I legitimately need a new pair of shoes, or because I want people to think I'm cool because I got these new pair of Vans? Like. And sometimes it's the latter. I like my Vans. I love my Vans shoes, but it's you have to understand the reasons, and then understanding those reasons, you can learn how to grow and, further progress your spiritual life and um how you see things. But let's recap on chapter 2 since we just finished it up. So just kind of a recap overall of what we talked about so far for chapter 2. So what has Krishna taught us so far? So, of course, he taught the soul. We are not the body. The soul is eternal. That was in chapter 2. Also, we talked about dharma. Spiritual life does not mean abandoning responsibility because dharma is not always comfortable. Sometimes knowing that is, knowing what you're supposed to do. Sometimes that's not comfortable. Of course, we talked about karma yoga and how we act sincerely. We don't attach our identity to outcomes. That's not who we are. Um, and well, of course, we also talked about steady consciousness, because the uncontrolled mind just creates suffering and peace comes through a spiritual steadiness. Chapter 2, of course, began with Arjuna collapsing onto the chariot, being like, just completely confused, not knowing what he's doing. I give up. I'm not doing this. I'm not fighting anybody, and just by the end of it, Krishna has begun rebuilding his understanding, of course, of the soul, of duty, of action, desire, peace, as well as spiritual consciousness itself. And that's really beautiful, structurally of how Krishna is building him back up from a guy just crumbled and sitting on this chariot and just overwhelmed with just so like the weight of the world on his shoulders. So I got a couple questions here. Um, let's see what everybody's input is here, because I knew there wasn't very many verses left of chapter two. So I was gonna normally ask two questions. I got three on here, so maybe we could talk and discuss and see what you guys think. So, first question I had for everybody is, what do you think most disturbs peace in this modern life? What do you think disturbs peace mostly? Darcy, you
Our
got
phones.
your phones? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, phones are a big one. Yes,
Mhm.
Melina, what do you have?
Our, yeah, our expectations of getting things done
Yeah, that's a big one.
the way we wanted, you know. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We
Yeah,
always
kids.
expect someone to you know, the work the way we want it. Like whether it's our child, our coworker, or our partner.
Mhm.
Mm, that's what I think.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's I've said it multiple times before. And again, it was from my therapist years ago, but she always said expectations lead to disappointment. So anytime we expect things, even if it's somebody that we put all our trust into, like my kids, like I know he's gonna make good grades, and then he doesn't make good grades, and my expectations are shattered. I'm so disappointed, but we have to let go of those things. Anybody else? What do you think disturbs peace mostly in this modern life?
Not taking the time to meditate, meditate.
Yeah.
In the words of David G, rule number one, don't watch the news. Rule number two, don't listen to the news. Rule number three, meditate.
Yeah.
I think we overestimate the amount of time it takes to do like you said, mantra meditation. But a three vibrational mantra meditation, you can go through it 108 times in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So instead of scrolling for 30 minutes on social media or scrolling or shopping or doing whatever, if you were to just sit, actually, you know what? Let me quote the Bhagavad Gita,
Yeah.
chapter 2, verse
Yeah.
48.
Well, and it's funny because when
um,
you start to compare
yeah,
the time, you're like, oh God, this is embarrassing.
right, right. We convinced ourselves, it's same with yoga. We've convinced ourselves we don't, I mean, for me, at like a 60-minute or 75-minute yoga practice,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I don't have time. No, you don't. They say that when you don't have time is when you make the time,
Yeah.
because then the time opens up. Um, chapter 2, verse 48, Yogasta Karu Karmani. That was one of the mantras that I that was taught to us last year when I was in the training. And it's one I actually, that's the one I told you I have it written down.
Mhm.
Literally, when I walk out my door, that's what it is, literally written and taped to the side of my bedroom door. When I walk out, it's the last thing I see. And it's establish yourself in the present moment and then perform action. And
Right.
I think the problem is that we start with action. We don't start with establishing the present moment. And if you add in just that meditation, Yogasta Karu Karmani, and repeat it 108 times, it only takes 7 to 8 minutes, depending on how
Yeah.
fast you go.
Sure.
So if you do it as soon as you wake up, you've established 8 minutes of some sort of practice where your mind can slow down,
Yeah.
your nervous system can shift, and then everything changes.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of it, is it really does work. Like, it
Yeah.
really works. But then we say, well, I don't have time.
Yeah.
And I was the biggest one of that too. And I was like, wait, like, I have time. I have 10 minutes in the morning
Yeah.
and 10 minutes, at night to do this, which fortunately, and then I started with 10 minutes and now I'm at like between 30 and 45 in the
Yeah.
morning and at night. And now for me, it's a non negotiable,
Yeah.
because the movement of my mind, when I bookend my days with 10 to 30, 45-minute meditations, regardless of the time of it, movement of my mind is so much different. I can live with intent. I
Yeah.
can make decisions with intent. I don't shop. I don't spend money. I don't, like I am a business owner, and I am the least consumeristic. I do not spend money because none of that stuff I need.
Yeah.
But the days that I don't meditate, I'm squirrely.
Oh yeah. Well, and
And
I
I can
think
see
it's
the
good.
difference now.
I think it's good when you start to realize, and that's part of it. You have to realize what works for you, and
Right.
what's going to get you focused because, of course, everybody's different, and
Right.
finding what
But if we're
impacts
going
you.
by the Bhagavad-Gita, the directions are right there.
Yeah.
Establish yourself in present moment,
Yeah.
and then perform action.
Yeah.
And so
I love it.
that was like the first thing that David G taught us. He was like, it's right here. It's the directions for how
Yeah.
to do this. It's right here.
Yeah.
And however long you decide to establish yourself is up to you. The longer you establish yourself, the more
Yeah. Level playing.
equanimity, you find till your next meditation. You are the calm amongst the storm of whatever's going on.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, that doesn't work. But 9 months later, now it's a non-negotiable for me.
Yeah.
I have a
That's
much better
awesome.
day when I meditate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
That's
would
awesome.
highly recommend it for everybody.
I love it. All right, so I got another question here, and this is,
Jeremiah.
huh?
You can even do it when you're pooping instead of scrolling.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
I'm going to send you a pooping meditation.
Yeah.
A
Hey.
mantra for the toilet.
Yeah. Hey. So I got another question. We kind of touched on this a little bit, and because it's at the beginning of today's session when we were talking about, let me remember here, trying to establish the difference between pleasure and peace here. So, what do you think the difference between pleasure is and what peace is? What do you think the difference is? That's a tough one.
Pleasure is temporary, peace is eternal.
Yeah, I like that. That's perfect. Yeah, I don't know if that's probably the best answer. Yeah. Yeah, because because pleasure, I think to me, it's you know, pleasure and peace, so like if I don't know, it's really hard to describe, but I think it's one of those things you just know. You know what I mean? Like, oh, yes, please. Melina, go ahead. I want to hear your answer.
I'm just trying. Pleasure is when you're serving your senses, and peace is when you're serving the Lord.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, because I think that's the peace comes from a higher meaning and a higher purpose, whereas
Higher purpose, yes.
yeah.
And I also heard from His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, my Guru Maharaj, day before yesterday when he was at Washington DC and giving a class. In his lecture, he mentioned that Srila Prabhupada, when he started a small center like we are having in the Lexington, small one, that's how he started. But when he registered as the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. That time there was no temple, no hardly few, just not even the disciples,
Yeah, it's just a tiny storefront. Yeah.
Storefront, and no, not even initiated disciples. But he ended up, registering as International Society of Krishna Consciousness because he had that connection. He had that vision. He tasted the higher taste of Krishna's beauty, Krishna's powers, Krishna's leelas, and that's why he had the so firm faith in Krishna that anyone who's gonna taste the Krishna's real nectar gonna get more ready to dive in. How she mentioned, like 9 months she can't skip a day without meditating. That's once you get in touch with Krishna, your lips won't forget the Maha Mantra. It will be like, all day long Krishna's dancing on your tongue. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Even if you don't want to think of Krishna, don't want to think of Radharani, still that Mahamantra gonna dance on your tongue and you'll be in constant touch with Krishna. And that's how, you'll get your peace and you'll get, I would say, disconnected from the material thoughts
Yeah.
and material enjoyments. And that's, yes, you'll dive in more.
I love that. Thank you. Yeah. That's
I
awesome.
love
Thank you.
it. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Just repeating Maharaj's words, nothing
Yeah.
mine.
Disconnecting to connect, or connect. Yeah, disconnecting to connect. So you're
Mhm.
disconnecting from the outside to connect to the inside.
Yeah.
Inside, yes.
Yeah. That's
I
cool.
love it.
It's awesome. So I got one more question here for us. Let's see. So the teachings from chapter 2, out of all that stuff, what do you think has impacted you all the most? And you can still chime in even if you haven't been to every session. If you know what chapter 2 is about, of course. But what do you think's the most impactful, or what's impacted you the most in chapter 2?
As much I heard from you today, I connected, like you said, our eternal position, right? Jivere Swarup Hoy Krishna Re Nitya Das. So
Mhm.
our eternal position is to serve Krishna. And that's what, from today's
Yeah.
hearing your words, I got connected. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you.
For me, it's back to just the establishing myself in the present moment.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yoga
that's a
sta,
big one.
yoga
Yeah.
sta, yoga sta, yoga
Yeah.
sta. I
Yeah.
don't chant so much of the Krishna, but coming off my tongue is yoga sta, reminding myself in everything that I'm doing. Because I mean, you see how I work. I'm a busy bee too. I'm everywhere, up, down, in, out, over,
Yeah.
like just for 12 hours a day. But it doesn't feel like that. And I'm asked all the time, like, where do you get the energy? I really try to stay in the present moment. I'm
Mhm.
focused on what I'm doing at that point in time, and which it's kind of easy for me to do that because I don't have that much outside influence coming in unless there's actually I have no outside influence coming in unless there's an emergency,
Sure.
because I'm not responsible for any human lives, animal lives, nothing. It's just me. um and I was having a conversation the other day with one of my friends, and she has a couple kids, and she was like, well, you're so lucky. And I'm like, am I lucky, or did I just create this life for myself?
Yeah.
It wasn't luck that I didn't have kids. It was a conscious freaking choice because I didn't want to have all of that external. So it's also in, just like you said, like in the way that you design how you're reacting to what's going on around you. Everybody told me I should have kids, I should have a boyfriend, I should have a husband, I should have this, I should have that. And I'm like, yeah, but then I have no peace. I have peace right now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shut my phone off.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just establishing myself in the present moment and
Yeah.
trusting. There's a lot, I felt like this chapter was a lot about trust and faith,
Yeah.
and in our own hearts, and being able, like the dharma part of it, that's,
Hmm.
I questioned dharma versus karma for a long time, and um that
Yeah.
helped me. That part of it last year helped me through a really terrible time in my life. So knowing my dharma, feeling my dharma, living my dharma, even though it's not comfortable
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
No, it's can be uncomfortable to do that, but being able to do that and trusting that as long as I'm living my dharma, then everything else outside of it is really a false ego.
Yeah. Love it.
So I loved this chapter.
Yeah.
I hated to miss last week. God, I hated to miss it, or the last time. But yeah,
Yeah.
this is a good chapter.
Well, yeah, I agree. What do you think, Darcy?
So my favorite out of all of it, or at least the thing that hit the most for me, was the mind becomes shaped by what it repeatedly focuses on.
Hmm.
And I'm trying really hard to kind of embody that in life right now and just focus on the things that I enjoy, music, packing, just different things like this, as opposed to focusing on the crappy stuff that I'm going through.
Yeah.
And it's helping.
Good.
So I dig it. So this has been really good. Yeah, like last one, I told Teresa, I was like, you should have been there. It was good because it
Good.
hit. And so that's the one I got the most out of.
Good. Good. Yeah, it was a strong section. It was a really good section for sure.
I did re-listen to it while I was working at the mall though in my earbuds, and I did message Darcy afterwards, and I was like, "Girl, that week was for you." I
Awesome.
knew it was going to be a good week for her when I heard
Good.
it. It was a good session.
Good. Well, and that sounds like you're kicking tail, Darcy, if you're like seeing what needs to happen and how to grow, and that's awesome. Should be proud
Yeah,
of it.
I'm slightly stymied on some things though, so I'm trying to focus on the positive
Yeah.
and what's the future hold and the excitement of it as opposed to the dread
Yeah.
of like,
Understandable.
oh, what do I do now? Like, do
Yeah.
I stay in
Well,
this career
yeah.
or do I become something new?
Yeah. Ooh. Like a butterfly, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think, Aaron? Did you get any insight out of this chapter?
Yeah, I mean, this whole chapter is just full of bangers, dude.
Yeah.
And then if you put all these verses together, it's only a couple paragraphs,
Yeah.
but each one just hits so heavy. But I mean, what Darcy just suggested is exactly what's been on my mind the last 2 weeks. That's what my therapist has tasked me with the last couple of months. I have a pessimistic mind and just trying to focus on making space for optimism. It's hard to be optimistic. But I saved verse 63. I had to go back and read it because that one felt like hit like a hammer. It's from anger, complete delusion arises. From delusion, bewilderment of memory. When
Hmm.
memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. And it's kind of what you were talking about earlier, right? Where you get like on your Instagram feed, something pulls you into a
Yeah.
political thing, and you can feel your heat
Oh
rise,
yeah.
and just yeah. And so that one really hit. I've been thinking about that one a lot.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's tough. Speaking from personal experience, because I see things that just like break my heart for people on like news feeds or just stories, and I'm just like, what are we doing in this world, But if I can get myself so worked up so fast, and it's like, you know, this take a deep breath, bud. This is, again, do what you can do, have your impact, but there's again the only person that's getting upset and is getting their happiness hijacked is me. Nobody that posted the article, nobody that made the news, nobody, those people don't even know I exist, and I'm the one getting impacted. Like this is kind of ridiculous. So just trying to release that stuff, and even when my mom says goofy stuff that like when I go visit her and I'm like, oh my gosh, why are we like, I don't want to argue with my mom about politics or about religion or anything. I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, that's
So
the
instead it's
toughest
just,
one.
what's that?
That's the toughest one when people
It
that you love
is.
the most
Well,
have
and
just
to be respectful of my mom, and just be like,
yeah.
I love you, mom. You birthed me, so you obviously, well, maybe all the good came out. I'm just kidding. But but it's like yeah, I don't know, just the older I've gotten, the more I've been like, okay, mom, that's fine, and just try to let it roll off my shoulder and just not let it impact me because she gets upset, I get upset, then we don't have a good session, and then potentially maybe I'm not a good example for my kids on how to talk to their mom. So there's multiple layers there that I need to make sure I'm making good choices just for even for my boys to make sure they see a good example. Would they rather see somebody that sees adversity and just doesn't let it bother them? And it's like there's, only control what I can control, live in the present moment, and just move on. So it's, It's those things that we constantly have to keep in our minds.
But in your moving on, you're
Yes.
not really just moving on. You're making your what you can impact. You're making the people around you, like when something bad happens to somebody, you're offsetting that frequency
Yeah.
because you live a really kind, giving, service filled life, like, so give yourself, you're saying like I can't do anything about it, but you can do something about it. It's just that it's going to be in your everyone's personal interactions with other human beings,
Yeah.
what regardless of politics, regardless of, like by
Yeah.
not arguing and not getting upset, and like I my father and I are on the same side of the political spectrum, and I have to tell him to shut his mouth because I'm like, I don't care,
Yeah.
and we're on the same side. I thank God we're on the same side.
Yeah.
But he's like, well, things sure have changed, and he's 80, and things are changing, and the world's different. And I'm like, yeah, because it used to be that people didn't talk about politics and religion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the rule. You didn't talk about politics and religion. I don't want to talk about it. And I'm going back to that old age when things were better because and so, and then I go into my regular world and do my regular things, and I try and everything I touch to either bring beauty or happiness or higher vibration to it. And if enough of us collectively do that, then it doesn't matter what the other side is
Yeah.
doing because like
Rise above.
Michelle Obama said it the best. They vibe low, we vibe high. We vibe higher,
Yeah. Yeah.
so they go
I
low,
agree.
we go high. So
Yep.
yeah,
I,
there is things you can do. It's just you can't look at it as a collective. You gotta look at it individual. Like,
yeah.
how can I make somebody else's day better?
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
and you do that, Jeremiah. I know you do that. You do that with this group and you do it with Kirtan. So
Yeah. Well, thank
I know
you.
you made my last Sunday better.
Yeah. Well, good.
Yeah, right?
Well, thank you. Um, so just to, as a kind of coming to a close here, because I think we've got about 7 minutes or so. So chapter two, of course, taught us that spiritual life is not escaping the world, right? Like we're talking about, we're still in it. It's learning how to move through it without losing your consciousness, your peace, and your connection, of course, to the divine. Now, next session, like we did in between one and two, we're going to have a special guest. So I'm going to have HG Pandit Srivas Das on. He's really fascinating. He's very scholared and very learned, and he's just an amazing devotee. He basically just that's like all he does is travel around and talk and stuff. And he is so if you have any like hard questions or some deep philosophical questions, he's going to be the guy to talk to and to bring up. And I'd say no subject is off limits. I told him it's just going to be kind of open door. People want to talk. He's like, or I've watched him speak before, and he's come to Lexington before to speak. And sometimes he's like, do you want me to talk about this, or do you guys want to ask questions, or what do you want to do? He's just real easygoing. But when he starts talking his stories and stuff, he's just fascinating and is just an amazing human. So I know that he'll be great, and I know you guys will love him. And I'll remind everybody so we can sign in and listen to him. And I'm going to try to think of some questions too, because he's like the type of person to ask to deepen, your connection to the divine, or if you've got like if you're like, why does it say this? And that doesn't make any sense, or that's kind of I don't like how that sounds. That doesn't really jive with what I think. Just if you have any qualms of any in regards to Bhagavad Gita or even like Bhakti Yoga, or you don't understand anything, he is the guy. And I mean, just again, fascinating. I can't talk enough about him, but yeah, HG Pandit Srivas Das will be awesome to have with us. Again, thank you so much for you all signing in. I really appreciate it. Of course, if I said anything that was incorrect, that's my fault. If I said anything correct, is due to the Parampara and the disciplic succession and Srila Prabhupada. So thank you for that. So hopefully, you guys are all getting something out of it. So I am getting your association and getting good times with you and getting to all of us can grow together. So I appreciate that. So It's awesome. Does anybody have any questions before we sign off or anything? I'll open it up since we have about 5 minutes.
Can I mention one thing which just click?
Sure.
Even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, "I'm the time." So, like,
Yeah.
we are so too much talking about the time connection, meditation. Even in the he also mentioned the focus and the concentration which the yogis get from the bhakti yoga is me. So you said you're not able to remember Krishna all the time, but you are remembering him directly or indirectly. We are not feeling him around, like, how we feel the heat and cold. Like, we can feel the weather, like it's too much humid, it's too much hot out there. So all that um, hotness and the coldness is coming from Krishna. So we are constantly feeling him, but it's just we are not realizing, like we are not realizing our eternal position, that we are actually um, he, jiva, and we
Mhm.
jiva belong to serve Krishna, and we are not serving him. But this is how he's reminding that even though you have forgotten me from so many lifetime, I haven't forgot you.
Mhm.
Like how a mother never forgets her child. Like, like my daughter coming and
Yeah.
yes, we can go to pool.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's how Krishna
Oh,
never forgets us, even though we can.
yeah.
Say Hare
Hi.
Krishna.
How are you? Like, nope.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. No, that's
Yes.
beautiful. Thank you, Melina. Thank you so much.
Just a thought.
Yeah,
Yes.
no, I love that.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. All right. Anybody else have any comments or questions? You good, Drew? Air conditioner still working good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good over here. I'm good
Uh,
over here. I think just well, and just on like on this session, I think I don't want to deep dive too much into it, but the thing I struggle with is, what is, we have these desires and these wants, and some of that we have to have those to survive. So it's trying to toe the line of what's necessary, what's not, because we could all just live in a you could all just live in a tent or a shack somewhere and just chant all day long. But is that ultimately the goal that we should be striving for, or we should be, I think it
well,
goes
I
back to
would think,
dharma and
yeah.
what should we be, are we following our dharma? And you have to decide. I think what I struggle with a lot is, do I want this because it's going to improve my life, or is it just out of greediness? Do I want a new car because I need a new car, or
Hmm.
because this one just looks cool, or it has more features or bells and whistles on it?
Yeah.
And that's something that I struggle with. Which side is that on? Is it something that's gonna improve my relationship with the Lord, or is it something that I just want out of a personal desire?
Yeah. And I think that's where the self-reflection comes into play, like I said, if you were, and you already touched on it, it's like would honestly, and I've thought about this too. I'm like, man, and I think I may even mentioned this one time to Aaron, but like, or in a session, but it's like, man, it would be awesome to just live out in the woods and just meditate all day and be away from everything. I can see the allure of it because it sounds awesome. I wouldn't have to deal with bills. I wouldn't have to deal with work. I wouldn't have to do anything like, but is that my dharma? No, my dharma is to make sure my kids are fed, they're taken care of, they're raised to not be horrible people. Like I want them to be good people as they get older, as well as right now. And I feel like I'm doing pretty good right now with that. I mean, I haven't wanted to like tackle any one of them yet, so like they're they're doing pretty good. But I think I mean, that's kind of the old age of the whole what is my purpose in life? The question that everybody always asks. And honestly, that was kind of one of the questions I thought about bringing up at our next session to maybe deep dive on is how do you find your dharma? Or how do you like, because I know he would have an amazing answer and I would love to hear it, because I think that's one that everybody's always like, well, what's my purpose? And unfortunately, I think we're a product of our society to where, I mean, we're kind of a McDonald's society. I want to go to the drive-through, get my answer right now and move on, but that's not really how life works. You can't just like get something off, like I can't get my dharma off the value meal in the drive-through, and then just like go on. Like we have to be able to you have to sort through these things and ask those types of questions like Drew was saying, like, why do I need this? Is it so I can make sure my kids are safe in this car and I can get them from point A to point B? If yeah, that's the answer, then awesome. If it's no, I dropped like I ended up having to sell the house because I wanted to get this like BMW, to look cool, but we're living in it now. Like probably not your dharma. The kid sleeps in the trunk, he's fine, like so I mean it's as long as we're self-reflecting and diving into those things, and you're honestly looking, not just like, no, I really need it. I really need it, like honestly looking and reflecting. I think that's how you get those. It's like the bumper cars, like on the bowling alley. You're just trying to get to where you need to get, but sometimes we hit the wall and we're like, you know, and just try to get there. But yeah, that's the age-old question is my purpose in life?
Well, and I think it goes down to just energy and frequency at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You can lie to yourself all day long and say it's a safe BMW to get your kids back and forth, but the universe knows you're lying.
Yeah.
And so there's that, co-creation too, just an energy and frequency between like the personal ego and the universal self. Or and you can lie all day long, and the frequency is not you can't lie, you can't manipulate the frequency
Hmm. I
at
love
the
it.
end of the day. Believe me,
Well,
I tried. You cannot manipulate the universe.
yeah. Well, if nobody, does anybody else have anything? Good. All right. Well, thank you
Thank
again
you.
so much. Yeah, I appreciate you all so much, and I will see you next in 2 Mondays. So.